Today, on a special edition of ELN Morning.
The racial divide.
The school kept having to apologize for things that they were doing instead of doing things that didn't need to be apologized for.
Students of color at Elon share their experiences, grievances, and efforts to make Elon more inclusive.
The administrative angle. University officials shared their motivation behind recent steps taken to reform race relations on Elon's campus.
And Policing Elon, our local police chief, on how frequently people of color are being stopped in our community.
Today, August 27th, 2020.
This is ELN Morning.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this special edition of ELN Morning, The Racial Divide. I'm Isabella Seman.
And I'm Baylor Rodman. We have a lot of stories to get to this morning, but first, we begin with Hurricane Laura. Breaking overnight, Laura making landfall in eastern Louisiana as a Category 4 hurricane with 150-mile-per-hour sustained winds. Right now, Laura continues to track northward in the Midwest as a weakened Category 2. The storm made landfall at 1 a.m. local time and caused significant storm surge along the coastline. Elon sophomore Catherine Broussard is from just outside Lafayette, Louisiana, just 70 miles where the storm made landfall. Broussard says members of her extended family are taking shelter at her home, and while she's disappointed she can't be there to support her family, she hopes they remain safe.
I'm hopeful because I know this is a really stressful time for my family, so making sure that they're together and that they have each other to lean on and support, because we've had traumatic experiences in the back traumatic experiences before with hurricanes. I'm glad that they're together.
The hurricane is expected to downgrade to a tropical storm later today as it makes its way across the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic as a tropical depression.
An update now on the impact of coronavirus on campus.
Elon University reported 2 new cases of the virus Wednesday, the highest single-day rise in cases to date. North Carolina reported more than 1,200 new cases.
The daily count contributes to the 17 total cases on campus, 3,000 cases in Alamance County, and over 150,000 cases in the state. For the latest numbers all the time, visit elonnewsnetwork.com/coronavirus.
Elon University President Connie Book says she is continuing to work toward making Elon a more diverse and inclusive campus. After a summer of protests following the death of George Floyd, Book announced steps including changing curriculum so that all students of all majors take classes in diversity, equity, and inclusion, renaming William A. Harper Hall, and reforming the university's bias report system. The Elon student body is nearly 80% white, with last year's full-time faculty nearly 76% white. Book says these recent events called her to action. She says it is unacceptable for any person of color at Elon to feel nervous about being here.
Well, I think every time you have a world event, you look at the work you're doing and it redefines it. It's not that we were not doing anything, right? We have had a plan. We had a black student task force in 2016, had made significant, and those are all publicly available on our website. We also, since I arrived, and redefined the President's Advisory Council for Inclusive Excellence and established it and set goals. But when you have an event or events like we had this summer, it accelerates your thinking. You learn something new in that. We've all paused and said, are we really doing all that we can do in this moment? And I think, Jack, that there is bias in our process, right? And I think that's really hard to weed out. So I was asking myself, is my budgeting process biased? You know, are there voices we tend to more in this budgeting process?
Is the general Elon community, do you think, students, faculty, and staff, do you think there is systematic bias that exists on this campus?
Oh, of course, yes.
To watch the full race relations portion of our interview with President Book, visit our website, elonnewsnetwork.com.
One Elon student is not satisfied with President Book's actions. Sophomore Trinity Battle is taking her classes remotely from home this semester out of protest. As a Black student, she says she feels unsupported by the university and is unhappy with the school's response to current race relations in our country.
It's not as supportive of an environment as I thought it was, and we as an American people deserve better. I as a Black woman deserve better. I as a student deserve better.
Battle met with President Connie Book via Zoom over the summer to ask for more support for students of color on campus. In her application for remote learning, Battle points out how the virus affects Black people.
Sort of demanding that we as a community are looked out for a little bit better, especially since our communities and communities of color really, but Black communities specifically are a lot more susceptible to real damage done by the virus.
According to the CDC, out of all racial minorities, the Black population has seen the most deaths due to coronavirus.
This is the first year ELN will operate with a Chief Diversity Officer. To promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, the university appointed Dr. Randy Williams to serve as the Vice President and Associate Provost for Inclusive Excellence. Williams says his work will focus on coordinating anti-racism efforts across campus, from curriculum to student, faculty, and staff diversity.
It wouldn't be just an initiative, if you will. It wouldn't just be a program. It would be endemic of how we operate at ELN. It is just who we are. It is in our DNA to think about minoritized voices, to think about different perspectives.
Williams says he wants students of color to feel comfortable not just in the spaces built for them, but across the entire campus.
Students should feel like this is my campus. I feel like I can be myself to the degree that I'm comfortable, and I get to decide what that comfort level is. And so we should have that pervasive throughout the university.
But as Williams works to change campus culture for students of color, I talked to some who rely on inclusive spaces for a community.
As a person of color, as a Black woman, it's a little tiring at times being the only person that's sitting in the class or the only person in a social group. And then you're looked at as like tokenized. You're tokenized for being that one person in a group.
Joel Tillman says while she commends ELN for taking steps to make the university more diverse, there is still a lot of work to be done.
Being able to educate others and also be like a safe zone for students of color who may need that really just was like the best of both worlds to me.
Tillman, along with Aiden Rodriguez, serve as student ambassadors for ELN's Center for Race, Ethnicity, and Diversity Education. Rodriguez says he understands students who don't feel like they have a place to fit in.
Feel for first years who might be feeling out of place, might be the only ones who look like them or have a similar identity to them in most of the spaces that they're in.
And with students, faculty, and staff pushing to make ELN more diverse, Tillman and Rodriguez say that despite campus culture, the Creed is a safe space.
Creed has done like everything for me. It's given me a kind of home base, sense of community.
The Creed was a place my first year where I went and I felt safe. I felt seen. And just being in that environment was transformative for my first year experience.
Tillman and Rodriguez are SMART mentors for the Creed. They say if you're interested in the SMART program, it is still open to new mentees. And to read more about Williams and his new position, visit our website at elonnewsnetwork.com.
And coming up, what one Student Government Association leader is hoping to accomplish this year. According to a 2013 Department of Justice report, nearly 27% of traffic stops involved people of color, despite making up 21% of the U.S. population. The discrepancy in numbers is also seen here in the town of ELN, where Police Chief Kelly Blackwelder says 20% of traffic stops involved people of color, despite having a town population made up of 13% of people of color. But Blackwelder attributes these numbers to a more diverse community surrounding the town. She says she believes her department is trustworthy.
And I'm confident in saying that we're doing it right here. We have good decision makers. We've got good officers. Every one of these folks got into this to help people, not hurt them. And if anyone's had interactions with our folks, you may have walked away with a ticket, but you walked away feeling like, okay, I was heard.
Blackwelder says as of last week, town police is now choosing to report details on every traffic stop to the state of North Carolina.
The Student Government Association is using its Student Inclusivity Committee to promote hard conversations on campus surrounding diversity. Elon Jr. Malia Takei says while the committee is not new, it's creating new initiatives in response to the university's plan to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion on campus. This is Takei's second year leading the committee, and she says her main goal is to implement a new training program for student organizations across campus.
Elon is a predominantly white institution, and so there needs to be more active conversations on campus about inclusivity and how to be an open community. And also, students just need to be aware and be able to have the conversations surrounding diversity.
Takei says another step the committee is taking is hosting a town hall next Thursday on Zoom for students to ask questions of Elon administrators about the university's plan. And we will be right back after the break.
Senior Women's Administrator and Chief Diversity Officer within the Elon Athletic Department, Faith Shearer, says some student athletes face two stereotypes on campus, being an athlete and a person of color. She says it's important to understand that some student athletes face these extra challenges and to understand that both are part of their identity.
I think, we look at athletics and we say that, we judge our players and, based on talent, and whoever is the most talented plays, and it doesn't matter, who they are. And there's very much truth to that. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other things that go on. It's not all about the game.
Shearer says that currently 35% of black males on campus and 20% of black females are student athletes. A full story on race relations within athletics will be released in the September 9th edition of The Pendulum.
Before we wrap up, we would like to address something apparent to us here at Elon News Network.
This morning, we've told you the stories of students, staff, and organizations working to make this campus more diverse and inclusive. But we realize those telling these stories do not represent the diversity of our campus. Our newsroom needs to reflect our community.
We pledge to work to both make our newsroom more reflective of the community and tell stories that span every race, ethnicity, and group that is underrepresented.
And that's all the news we have for you today. Thanks so much for joining us.
For all the news while we are not on the air, visit our website at elonnewsnetwork.com and follow us on social media at Elon News Network.
Stay safe and healthy. Have a great week, Elon.